In the Half-Life Alyx chapter, Super Weapon, you have to find 2 different keycards in order to progress through this subway station. An orange keycard, and a blue keycard. The orange one can be found right next to the blue keycard reader. The blue one can be found in an upstairs office. These keycards are also one of the few items across the entirety of all Half-Life media to contain full years on them. These keycards were not always like this. As can be seen on the texture names, the orange card is labeled green, and the blue card is labeled orange, meaning there were different colors at one point during development. Valve artist Claire Hummel worked on these cards, and has an image of them in this configuration. Interestingly, these original card textures had the years on them obscured. Only when they changed the colors for retail were the years left visible. Although Odessa Cubbage appears very briefly in Half-Life 2, he does have a bit of additional lore, some of which was highlighted in the Half-Life 2 Prima Guide. Odessa Cubbage would regale his followers of various military exploits of his. These include tales of his time with Rudyard Kipling or serving with the Bengal Lancers. Rudyard Kipling died in 1936, and the Bengal Lancers could be one of several military units from what is now India and Bangladesh. Some of which, though, only existed during the time of the British Raj, which formally dissolved in 1947. As expected, Cubbage appears to be way too young to have served with Rudyard Kipling, and depending on which unit he meant, likely didn't serve with a Lancer unit. This creates a doubt in his character and origins. Is the town of New Little Odessa named after him, or did he rename himself after the town? There is doubt about his accent, and even his mustache.
I couldn't have asked for a finer volunteer. Colonel Odessa Cubbage at your service.
While it is true that the Colonel does have military service ribbons pinned to his jacket, this jacket is that of a security officer. A security officer for what the Combine Over Wiki identifies as the University of Rochester in New York State. In Dr. Kleiner's lab at the beginning of Half-Life 2, there are numerous things to interact with in the scenery. Something intended by Valve.
Lab interactivity. In our choreo scenes, we have the player trapped for a bit, allowing us to focus on the characters and narrative. To accommodate different players, some deeply invested in the story, others unable to stand still for more than a second, we felt like we needed a constant stream of interesting details on screen. We scattered narrative elements throughout the environment, ensuring some were interactive, essentially toys for the player to tinker with. In some cases, we embedded further storytelling into these, like the cactus mini-teleporter hinting at the upcoming teleporter failure. It was a delicate balance. Too much visual interest could distract players from the core of the scene. Ultimately, Kleiner's lab played it safe with interactivity, as it was the first major choreo scene. Later, in Eli's lab, we explored it more deeply, ensuring the characters themselves paid attention to what the players were tinkering with.
Among these interactives are several physics objects, and characters in the scene will remark if you start throwing them around.
Dear me. Inaugurate the new teleport with a double transmission.
Uh-oh.
You mean it's working? For real this time? Almost forgot. Barney?
Careful there.
I've got to get back on my shift, but okay. Dear me.
This physics reactivity has a history stretching back to 2003, being seen in public at E3 that year.
No, there's nothing to be nervous about. Let's see. The massless field flux should self-limit, and I've clamped the manifold parameters to CUI base, an LG orbifold, the Hilbert. Oh, do be careful.
The reactions required some iteration and involved a particularly adamant playtester.
Character reactions. Figuring out what characters should react to and how was an ongoing challenge. At the core, we always want the game to respond to player input. However, any response from the game can be seen as a reward by the player. So, what characters react to and what they ignore teaches the player about the kind of input the game expects. As a result, we made sure to respond to things we wanted more of, like players tinkering with devices in the lab, and ignored behaviors we wanted less of, like players repeatedly slapping Clanner in the face with a box over and over again. Seriously, we watched a playtester do it for 5 minutes straight.
My shit.
During the development of Half-Life Alyx, Dr. Breen was considered for inclusion in the story, even having a model created and some test audio.
Why would you want to fight against equality? In all my communications with the Combine, from negotiating our surrender to listening to their plans for the future, they've been nothing but rational. Let's not forget, they mastered interdimensional travel, they've all but wiped out the Vortigaunt menace that we brought upon ourselves, and they're in the process of cleaning up the quarantine zone for us.
Because of all this, Valve thought about creating a new Breencast, as seen here in this whiteboard from development. In the end, Dr. Breen was only seen in various images and mentioned in historic contexts in the retail game. Without the Breencast in-game, the team for Half-Life Alyx provided a new perspective of them in the developer commentary.
The power of the Combine is embodied in their indifference towards humanity. They've conquered Earth with little effort and are now plundering it for their own ends. They put a modicum of effort into their propaganda, but it's ultimately uncaring. Later in Half-Life 2, we see Breen's attempts to talk to humanity with more seriousness, but it's unclear whether that directive comes from the Combine or if it's just Breen's attempts to be useful to them.
Although the end of Team Fortress 2's Meet the Heavy takes place on the first point of the map, Dust Bowl, the interview with Heavy takes place in this unseen building. Source 1 filmmaker gives us the ability to see this space, as SFM comes pre-installed with a working file of Meet the Heavy. The interview takes place in the loft of a multi-story building, sitting above a two-door garage. There's even a staircase and elevator to go between the two. Behind the camera is an entire office space and hallway. As well as other utility areas. Directly behind Heavy, though difficult to see in the trailer, is a large box that is for a 2001 part build-your-own drivable tank. You can find something unexpected in Counter-Strike Condition Zero. Several maps of the game were remade from their 1.6 versions with brand new assets. As it turns out, a lot of these assets are from Half-Life 2. Here in Airstrip are two textures that I spotted from Half-Life 2. Here's another two in Prodigy. Even the Condition Zero version of Italy contains Half-Life 2 textures. Prodigy, though, contains one of the higher concentrations of textures, beyond just the previous two. Condition Zero was released months before Half-Life 2, and would have been developed at the same time as it. Counter-Strike Source, a full Counter-Strike title built on the Source engine with Half-Life 2 assets, was also in development. It would launch at the same time as Half-Life 2 that same year. But, if you played Condition Zero at launch, you'd have unknowingly had an official taste of both early. While in Old Aperture in Portal 2, not only will you meet Cave Johnson, but you'll meet his assistant Carolyn.
Now, you already met one another on the limo ride over, so let me introduce myself. I'm Cave Johnson. I own the place. That eager voice you heard is the lovely Carolyn, my assistant. Rest assured, she has transferred your honorarium to the charitable organization of your choice. Isn't that right, Carolyn?
Yes, sir, Mr. Johnson.
She's the backbone of this facility. Pretty as a postcard, too. Sorry, fellas. She's married. To science.
But Carolyn wasn't the first idea for this assistant role, as Dario Casali explains.
The character of Carolyn came about because we wanted somebody for Cave to play off of. Though we had originally envisioned a put-upon scientist character called Greg, it would have been wasteful to hire an actor for just 1 or 2 lines. Instead, we hit upon the idea of economizing by using GLaDOS actor Ellen McLean. Out of nowhere, we suddenly had an opportunity for a GLaDOS origin story.
Greg would come back in his original role for new Cave Johnson dialogue in the Perpetual Testing Initiative, the DLC that adds the non-hammer level editor.
Welcome, test subject. It's Cave, Prime, from Earth 1. I am speaking to you from across time and space. I am literally in the future. Hold on. What?
Right.
All right, my assistant Greg tells me none of that's true. Got excited. You are the first test subject we have ever sent into a parallel universe, which apparently has nothing to do with time travel. Still exciting. Anyway, you should be seeing a test chamber in front of you. We designed it. Those backwater universe yokels built it, and you're going to test it. Remember, you gotta let us know if it works or not. Otherwise, you're wasting everybody's time on 2 Earths. All right, get to it. Cave here. The real Cave. Greg's been crunching some numbers here on Earth Prime. Turns out the likelihood of me being the only Cave who likes talking to test subjects is... What's the actual number, Greg? Right. 0. So, tell you what, we're going to use a code word. If I say chariots, it means you're listening to me. Otherwise, it's an imposter Cave. I want you to know you have a license to kill on this one. What? Greg says that might destroy the entire multiverse. Point is, use your own judgment. License to kill.
Hi down there. We're gonna test forever and ever and ever.
Hey!
Uh-oh.
Hey! What are you doing in here? Beat it! Come on, Greg, I told you not to let your creepy kid in my office. No, I'm sorry, Greg, but there is something wrong with that kid. We'll test forever. Why she whisper all the time? Hey, test subject, just keep going. Chariots, chariots. Man, that kid's creepy.
Left 4 Dead 2 has an intro cutscene that plays on each startup, regardless of console, but the PC players get something extra. Remaining in Left 4 Dead 2's files are some leftover alternate takes for a couple of lines for Coach and Nick. This is the line that made it into the intro.
This used to be a nice neighborhood!
These are the alternate takes.
This used to be a nice neighborhood! 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 This used to be a nice neighborhood!
This is the line that made it into the intro.
Aren't they supposed to be saving our asses?
These are the alternate takes.
They left us here to die. They were supposed to rescue us. Thought they were supposed to be getting us out of this shit. Thought they were supposed to be saving our asses.
This is the line that made it into the intro.
Looks like there's been a change of plans. Looks like there's been a change of plans.
These are the alternate takes.
Looks like they're coming back to finish the job. Looks like they're coming back to finish the job. Looks like they're coming back to finish the job. I guess there's been a change of plans. I guess there's been a change of plans. Looks like they came back to finish the job. Looks like there's been a change of plans. Looks like their plans have changed. There's been a change of plans. There's been a change of plans. Looks like their plans have changed. Looks like we're not part of their new plan. Looks like they came back to finish the job. Looks like they came back to finish the job. Looks like they're coming back to finish the job.